Election and Canada news. We're moving on to Canada warns of U.S. border officers power to search electronic devices.
The government of Canada has updated its travel advice for anyone going to the U.S., warning of the significant discretion American border officers have. That's when it comes to deciding who enters their country. The CBC's Tricia Kindleman has been following this for us today. And of course, travelers listening very closely to this, what do they need to know?
Yeah, so not necessarily new rules at play, but it does seem like there is some newer applications that we might be seeing with these rules. But it's definitely important for people to realize just sort of how much discretion those border agents really do have. So now, again, this website with official advice from the federal government, it does, suggest that U.S. authorities are strictly monitoring these entry requirements and enforcing them, and that does include scrutiny of electronic devices. Now, the advice from the Canadian government is to comply and be forthcoming with all interactions with border agents, and they say if you are denied entry, you can be detained while awaiting deportation. Now, we have this graphic.
We know that's a thing. A woman from British Columbia originally who was working in the United States of America was detained for 2 weeks and was shipped to many different detention centers and had no idea where she was going while it was happening to her. And from what she said, it sounded like none of the agents had any idea why she was there either.
Here, that sort of gives us an idea just how many people are actually have their electronic searched, rather. Now, it is just a small percentage. You can see that number there, just 0.01% of travelers who go through secondary screenings, which can include that electronic search. So it's not necessarily been a high percentage, but again, these are 2024 statistics that we're seeing there. So the relationship between the two countries has changed a little bit, and people do believe that that is sort of what's leading to this increased scrutiny at these border crossings. Now, we're also hearing from immigration lawyers who are saying that they're getting a lot of inquiries from people, and they do have a few pieces of advice.
I don't know what advice she's going to be giving, or if she's going to be showing the video. Oh, she is going to be showing the video. I'll just let it play then.
I think it is a great idea to take a burner phone, to not take your technology, to not take anything on your technology that you would be afraid of any government entity knowing or having. Might you be detained at the airport? You might be detained for questioning, but you can say at any point, you know what, I don't want to travel anymore.
Now, one other piece of advice was if you...
Now, we're definitely going to listen to the piece of advice, but so insane to think that, they could be searching your phone for whatever, probably any dissent, against the Trump regime. We've heard about a man from Germany who was who was turned away, for having anti-Trump stuff on his phone. There was a guy who was a scientist who was going to study in the United States. I believe he was from France. His phone was also searched through, and while his phone was being searched through, they also found anti-Trump rhetoric in it. And if they can get you for that, like what counts as anti-Trump? Just talking about what he's doing? Because I feel like that's what the majority of people around the world have been doing. Like, verbatim saying, oh, this is what he's talking about, this is how he's talking.
Flying out of Canada, doing that border check in the Canadian airport does prevent then you being on U.S. soil if there is any sort of risk of detention or anything like that. So again, a lot of questions, more questions than answers, Marianne. It seems to be sort of the norm lately, but travelers definitely suggested to do their due diligence before traveling into the U.S. right now.
All right, thanks so much, Tricia.
Thanks.
Just terrifying and strange times that we live in today. Like, honestly, just oh god. Like I used to travel to the States for fun. I'm never doing it again. At least not now. At least not in the next few years. Now we're gonna be watching a video called Ontario Woman Arrested, Jailed in US for Driving with a Canadian License.
It is a highway well traveled by Canadians, to say the least, as they drive through the United States, the I-75.
Like, I'm almost certain, again, I don't have a license, so I am not the authority on this whatsoever, but I have been driven around in the United States with people who had Canadian licenses, who were driving in from the border in Watertown and just taking me to the mall to go shopping, or going out for dinner, or going to Joann's or any of the other stores and stuff like that. Like, I'm almost certain you're allowed to do it. Like, what the absolute fuck?
Young Ontario woman who was taking that highway ended up in the back of a cruiser because she was Canadian.
They're taking away my car, and now I can't drive, and I don't know what to do. I'm in Georgia.
Pretty upset, understandably. That's Emily Neal, who calls her arrest last month the most horrendous incident of her life. And she's looking for an apology from the officer who charged her. Well, this is a story that certainly caught our attention. Emily Neal out of the cruiser, back in Canada with family in Kleinburg, and with me this morning so we can tell you more about her story. Good to see you, Emily, and thank you for being here.
Good morning, Heather.
So let's go through what you went through. There you are back in Kleinburg, thankfully. But as I was mentioned there, your story is you were in Georgia, driving through Georgia. You got pulled over for speeding. And this is when the odyssey began. What happened when you handed over your valid Ontario license to that police officer?
She saw my license, and then she took a moment, looked down upon it, and she said, "This is not valid." And I was like, "No, my license has not been expired or anything like that." She's like, "No, this is a Canadian driver's license. I can't accept this. How do I know if you are actually Canadian or if this is a forgery? Canadian licenses aren't accepted in the state of Georgia." And I was just flabbergasted when she told me that.
How do we know it's not a fraud? Because she did ask you for supplemental ID too, didn't she?
Yes, I did have more forms of ID. I had my OHIP card on me, but my passport, I don't keep it on me when I'm traveling.
OHIP, for those who don't know, is Ontario health card. It's our insurance card so that we can get our free health care.
I like to keep it back in the hotel or back at the home that I'm staying at. And she kept insisting on seeing my passport, which I didn't have on me. I had a copy of it along with a copy of my birth certificate and Nexus card all on my phone, but she did not want to see any of those.
Isn't that interesting? Because that's what they often advise you, to keep the originals safe in case of loss or theft or something, and keep copies, and she wouldn't accept those. So then what happened?
She promptly told me that I was now under arrest. I could not drive in the state of Georgia and that my car had to be impounded. So she put handcuffs on me, frisked me, and put me in the back of her police car. And we waited until a tow truck driver can come and take my car away.
And then she took you where?
She took me straight to jail.
To jail?
Yes, to jail, in which I was processed, booked, fingerprinted, mugshot, had to wear orange, the whole shebang, and I was in jail and forced to pay a bail to get out.
How long
Damn.
were you there?
They told me I was going to stay there until June 12th unless I paid the bail, but as soon as I was paid the bail, I was released after approximately 3 to 4 hours.
This happened, though, the beginning of April. So they were telling you April, May, mid-June? Had you not paid that amount?
April 2nd, which
Okay,
was my
that's
birthday.
Oh, my goodness. Not such a happy birthday. So there you are. You're all by yourself. You're a young woman in jail in Georgia. I mean, what are you thinking? What are you feeling?
I was terrified. I'd never been in that sort of situation. I kept hearing all these noises from other people who were locked up, and I was just kept thinking, oh my gosh, is something going to happen to me? Am I going to get hurt? And
That is so sad.
no one knew where I was. If it wasn't for the Snapchat feature, Find My Friend, no one would have known that I was in jail.
Yeah, so explain that, because we had that
Yeah.
video. That
Snapchat coming in with a fucking save. Jeez.
video that we'll show again. You were able to grab some of that when you were in the cruiser, and you sent that back to people at home?
Yes, I had my cell phone on me. I was not hiding it. The police officer let me keep it. and my cell phone was kind of old, so the GPS location was not working, so I couldn't find myself. But I was able to send a Snapchat to friends to be like, hey, I don't know where I am, help me, get me out of jail. And through that app, they knew exactly where my phone was located. They were able to find me and start connecting me with a lawyer and trying to get me out.
So it's interesting. We were looking at the Georgia Department of Driver Services website. I mean, it's really clear, Emily. This is what it says. Non-U.S. citizens holding a valid foreign driver's license are allowed to drive in the state of Georgia.
See, and that is what I thought. I know each state is different, but we were allowed to do it in New York. Like I remember going when I went to Florida to go to Disney World. We were allowed to drive there. Like my grandmother and my aunt and my uncle were allowed to use their Ontario driver's licenses in Florida. Like, absolutely hard. Oh, you can't use it. It's a valid license. Girl, what the fuck? Canadians just shouldn't travel to fucking America, honestly. Honestly, it is so fucking scary.
I mean, was this officer just mistaken? Or what happened? How did you, I mean, how is it that you're talking to me now? How was it able to be resolved?
I would like to think that she was mistaken. I hate to think that people were actually targeting Canadians. But in the back of my mind, and from stories that I've now been hearing from so many people, I think this particular stretch of highway, they are targeting Canadians because they know they're not going to come back to protest any of the fees. So they can easily make some money off of a quick speed trap. And then when they saw that I had an invalid license, they thought maybe they could make more money because the money goes directly back to that county sheriff's office.
How much did you end up paying?
The bond was set for 880 USD. But with fees and everything like that, it came to 927 USD, and then it cost me another 200 USD to get my car out of the impound lot.
Wow. So here you are, you're in the hole, you've had this experience, and is everything done now, or are there still matters yet unresolved for you?
Thanks to so many countless people in the United States and the Canadian consulate, this matter is almost completely resolved. My record has almost been expunged, which is great. And they are mailing me a check with my bond money back.
Good.
That is good news, and it'll be all hopefully in the distant past. And yet, it's such a vivid account. And the I-75, how many untold millions of Canadians take that highway heading down to Florida or wherever?
Yeah,
what's the lesson of your story, do you think, for fellow Canadians, Emily?
I would say always be aware of the law. You do have the right to have a Canadian license, and you have the right to call the Canadian consulate. I was denied that right, but that goes against the Vienna.
What? What? No, they can't do that. That is not allowed.
Treaty. That does not count as your one phone call. They have to call them, and the Canadian consulate can easily clear things up for you.
Damn.
Quite a
And
price.
always make sure.
Oh, sorry.
They're fucking denying fucking Canadians their fucking rights now. Holy fuck.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Always make sure.
Oh.
You have the hard copies of your documents as well. Because the phone, having them.
Yeah, okay. On that note, not only should you have your hard copies, but you can get little fanny packs that go under your pants and that actually hide under your pants that are really thin. My grandmother travels with one whenever she goes to anywhere, including America, and not anymore. I've told her not to travel to America. I have told her many times now not to travel to America. If I get a fucking text from that bitch and she's going to fucking America, I'm tying her the fuck down. Anyways, but you can get these tiny little fanny packs. They're about this big. They're about just big enough for your passport and your IDs and stuff. And you put it in your pants and you fucking leave it there, okay? Don't take it out unless you're in a situation like that, you know? Oh my god.
Saved, they won't cut it anymore.
It certainly didn't in your case. You're right. I'm glad you're here to tell us all about it. What a story. Thank you that we can learn from you. And best of luck clearing the record and getting this all over and done with. Thanks,
Yeah,
Emily.
good luck, Queen.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Damn. That is so fucked up. That is so fucked up. Okay, this is the end of